Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Paddy and Pals podcast. Uh, Here I am myself, wee Judd, and beside me, somewhere, whether on my left or right, I can never tell, is Paddy himself. And as always, we have Dan Sackman from across the Shuck in England. All three of us here, ready, willing, and able to take you through. How can we describe this? An aimless, wandering conversation about stuff that's knife or vaguely knife related. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take some of the questions that you, our loyal followers, provided for us at Paddy's behest last time he put out that cry for help for Paddy and Pal's podcast for ideas for things for topics for us to talk about. So each of us are going to take a question and hopefully try and address it. Not a question that you guys have asked. It's something that we thought people might be interested in, or at least we'd get a little bit of conversation going about it. Okay, so I'm going to kick off proceedings, and the question that I'm going to answer is one that was submitted by Ghost Malone, a long-time listener and follower of Barry's Potato Peelers. Obviously, he has way too much time on his hands. But what Ghost Malone asked us, or thought would be interesting, was if we could take a handful of knives and describe what knives we would use for different purposes. Okay, now we're not all three going to do that, although we'll probably chip in after I've had a go. But I'm gonna kick off with my five knives and my five different functions or tasks or activities with these knives, and it's a random list. And more to the point, as Paddy and Dan will always tell you, and anytime you're asked about what's your favorite knife or anything like that, this list is not set in stone. It will probably change tomorrow. So this is my list today, of these five knives that I would use for these five subjects. So I'm going to take you through them very quickly. We're trying to restrict ourselves to about 10 minutes per person, so that we don't go on mindlessly for hours. So I'm going to kick off, and of course, if only to keep Dan on side, my first knife is going to be a sack. Okay, now calm yourselves because it's not a big sack. But the function of this knife is, what is the ideal sack to take into work any day, all day, every day? Okay. Now, this is my work. I work in an office. At best, I work out in the road training people in my organization. So I need something light and fully functional that will do me for all of those little bits and pieces that you would need in the office. And my knife of choice for the perfect, and I will not bear any contradiction on this, the perfect, universal, everyday carry for office worker is
Drum out.
is the Midnight Manager. Okay. Now this one's in sapphire
Yeah,
blue,
a good choice.
and it is an absolute powerhouse. This is a 58mm sack, and it is quite possibly the most perfect EDC knife that you would have. Now, if you think about all your everyday carry functions, you need something to cut with, you need something to write with, you need something to see in the dark with. That's probably it. I will add, you also need something to open a bottle of beer at the end of the day with. Or if you want to be fully functional, something to screw with. But we won't get into that too much because people will start reading things into this that are way too Freudian. So the Midnight Manager is that perfect sack. So if you think about it, first of all, it has pen. So you've got something to write with. Second of all, it's got something to cut with. So it's got a knife, but it's also got, and where do you see? Watch Paddy as I do this. Watch Paddy as I do this. His eyes will roll into the back of his head. It's got scissors. Of course it's got scissors, because you never know when you have to take care of your fingernails during the day. Well, if you get a rag nail and you have to give it a quick trim. But the best thing about it is when you're rooting in your drawer in your desk for that stuff at the back of your desk that you can't actually see, you've got a wee torch. You can actually see it. The number of times I've used this on dark winter nights when I'm trying to get my keys into the car after a hard day's work, class wee thing. And the beauty about this is that you could carry it on your key ring dead easily. And it's a beautiful little 2 layer. It is a bit chunky because of the extra scale tools, but Midnight Manager, absolute cracking knife. One of the best knives, I think, both in its class and, I mean, it punches so far above its weight, it's unbelievable. So that's my first choice. Everyday carry in the office. Okay?
I have a mini champ on the key ring, so it's very similar in aspects, but I wouldn't be without it now. I carried a classic for years, but since I went to the mini champ, absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. And the mini champ is another one. But the thing about it is, I think we've mentioned this before. I hate redundancy in a multi tool. I mean, I don't honestly see the point for 2 or 3 blades on a knife.
Midnight Manager, perfect, mate. Because it's just a rambler, which most people like with the pen, and you get the jelly scales. I get a lot of them scales just on their own, with the light and the pen in. And they're so popular. People put them on classics, they put them on ramblers. But I think once you get to with the SAC Midnight Managers, the mini champ Midnight Managers, they become a massive tool. Whereas you got the Alox Midnight
Mini
champ,
Mini champ.
that's so thin. But the thing is, I'm like you. I don't see the point in the emergency blade. Why it's got a cocaine spoon on it, I've no idea. there's just some, but do you know what I'm saying? I know it's a cute.
No, absolutely. I agree with you completely, Dan. I mean, it's just they're nice to have, and I love a gadget as much as the next man, and they're beautiful little exercises in design. But what you need, and really for me, it's about almost perfection and function with the Rambler and then the Midnight Manager as well. It's just exactly what you need, no more.
Or the 76, is it 74, 76 executive and directors? They are like, I think for women and men, they are so. Anyway, look, I'm rambling. This is it's supposed to be your bit, isn't it?
No, but that's it, Paddy. That's the executive. That's the 74 mil.
Yeah, 74. Sorry, yeah, 74.
And that was going to be my closing comment. I think the only thing I would improve on the Midnight Manager is I'd adore to see the same functionality in a 74 millimeter. I think that would be incredible, because I agree with you, Dan. I think the 74 millimeter, 58 millimeter is too small, but the 74 millimeter is like, it hits that sweet spot. The good size scissors, decent size blade for a small knife. And if it had all of the extra functionality, it would just be the business, really. You know. So that's my first knife, guys. Second knife, I do have a work knife, a knife that I like to use for practical tasks about the house, or as I say, when I'm helping my wife down the allotment. And that is the bullnose. Okay, this is GEC bullnose, and I mean, look at this. It's a sodbuster pattern, and I have to say, I funnily enough, I bought this off Dan. So hopefully, I'm batting 300 here in terms of keeping Dan pleased. But it's also a pattern that Paddy introduced to me when he was talking about GECs. And honest to goodness, see, as just a practical, everyday, hard use knife, I find it hard to beat. Now, and don't get me wrong, I have choices. And as I said earlier, tomorrow this could change. I've got 2 or 3 Ashley Harrisons that are brilliant hard use knives as well. Really good, strong spring that you're not afraid of it closing on you. Great, comfortable handle. But to be honest, this pattern is just absolutely almost impossible to beat. It's a cracking knife, and one I would have absolutely no hesitation in taking out with me to cut rope, to cut cardboard, to cut the heads off plants, or dig in the ground even a wee bit, because you're not afraid of damaging it. It's because it'll strop up or sharpen up if you blunt it or whatever else. Bit of carving, bit of whittling, anything that knife is good for. So that's my work knife.
This is my new work knife.
Oh, Jack Wolf.
Of course it is.
This is the Jack Wolf. This is the sheep's foot, which is absolutely fine. But to be quite honest, this is if I need longevity in the day. If I just want a knife that's going to do absolutely any task and do daily, it'll be something like my Ashley Harrison that he made for me. I absolutely love this knife. This is just a brilliant work knife. Both got strong springs, so you've no fear when you're using them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is, this
Anything
is
along those lines. Okay, moving on to number three. So number three. Now this is a wee bit left field because it's sort of. I wanted to talk about this knife because it impressed me so much over the summer, and so I wanted to talk about. It's not so much about a function; it's about a reason or a I don't know what's the word. It's a suitability or appropriateness of a knife. Okay, so over the summer we had a good summer, lots of hot weather. Dan was naked for most of it, and it was. I mean, even the thought of that upsets me. It just. I mean, I have trouble sleeping tonight. But the main thing about it was that when you're out and about in your summer trousers or your shorts or whatever else, you don't want to have the usual weight that you can carry when you're wearing jeans or proper trousers all day. You don't want to carry them dragging your pants down around your ankles all day. So the thing that surprised me was, I mean, I would always carry a wee knife like the Midnight Manager or the Mini Champ or the Rambler or something like that, just to have bits and pieces. But I always like to have a proper blade on me as well. And this one surprised the hell out of me. And it was the G Clip, yeah, compact. Okay, and this is the, was it the Real Steel? It is indeed Real Steel G Clip compact. And I have to say, this knife performed above and beyond all of my expectations of it. Okay, I mean, it's just a standard wee slip joint, and it's a cracking wee knife. Cheapest, well, not cheapest chips, but it's not expensive. It's a budget knife. It's not expensive or in any way, shape, or form. But the thing that got me about it was that I could slip this into a pocket, and because of the clip is almost like a Spyderco wire clip. There's no weight to it whatsoever, and it would just slip into the pocket of your shorts, and you would forget that it was there. It was absolutely ultra light, and yet it's got a full size blade with a lovely, lovely, what would we call that? It's not quite a spear point. It's sort of a drop point. Yeah.
yeah, drop point.
That point.
Yeah.
Drop point, yeah.
And I mean, this is 12 CR, whatever the hell it is.
27.
Yeah, the Sandvik job, and it's just a lovely, lovely knife. Brilliant for slicing an apple, or if you're out for a picnic and you need something to prepare food with. Absolutely brilliant, just to pull out and go. It's not threatening, and when it folds away, there's no weight in it, and it just slips in your pocket like as easy as pie. So in terms of an ultra light knife, that would be my first choice. I mean, it's got a half stop, well, a 3/4 stop, and it's also got a really good firm back spring as well. And you know me, Paddy, I like a firm back spring on my knives,
Yeah.
mainly because unlike yourselves, I have this terror of closing a damn slip joint on my fingers, even though I try to use them properly. But it's one of those things. A firm back spring is the first thing that is gonna prevent you from doing that. But the G Slip Compact, absolutely love this knife. And as I say, I was surprised as all get out that it was going to be so useful to me over the summer. It probably won't see use again until next summer because I don't. At least I've got trousers that'll hold themselves up now. But for shorts wear or summer wear, absolutely perfect. So that's number three. Number four, camping. What do you use for camping? Now, I love a bit of tent city. I love a bit of camping. Didn't get out much this year. Got camping down the Mourns here in Northern Ireland once, and every time I go out camping, this is the knife I always bring with me. Now, I know I've had two sacks in this list, but you have to bear with me. One, I'm originally a sack man. I'm still crossing that threshold into sort of traditionals and everything else. But the other one is Dan would kill me if I didn't have at least.
Yeah, you're good,
Yeah,
man.
okay.
I like traditionals. I like traditionals too.
Oh, I know you do. But to be honest, if you're going camping, you cannot beat the Huntsman. Huntsman is probably I would say the only knife I would take instead of this would be the Swiss Army Forester, the 111 millimeter version of this, probably. Okay, and the only reason I bring that is because it's a locker, and it's got a frame lock on it, and it would give you a wee bit of more versatility if you needed a more stable or sort of fixed type blade. But the Huntsman as a camp knife is absolutely perfect because in terms of what you get for the weight, and let's fight. I mean, when I'm going camping, I'm taking the whole slog up into the. I'm going wild camping up the moors here, so it's you have to carry everything in and everything out, and every millimeter or every gram counts, as they say. So the Huntsman for me is about as heavy as I want to go. It's got the main characteristic feature of the Huntsman is of course the wood saw. Okay, and it is, I mean, tiny as it is incredibly functional, and it will help you cut down kindling and put together the wherewithal for a fire. Not that we're allowed to make fires, but if you did need to, you could do. So that's my camping knife. And anybody who doesn't think that a sack is a good camping knife can go fish. So that's number
Well,
4.
I'm going fishing. Give me a trout any day.
What would you take though, Pat?
You take not a camping knife.
We're talking camp.
A sack
We're talking
does not-
bushcrafting.
No, no. You need a big knife. You need a saw. You need a machete for taking for delimbing your branches.
Why did I know
That's
you was
what
going to say
camping's all
machete?
about. Man,
Big, yeah.
Now you see, here we go. I would make a distinction between camping and bushcrafting. I agree with you, Paddy. If I was going out bushcrafting, chopping things down, making shelters, making fires, and all the rest of it, I agree with you. I would like to have a bushcrafting knife. I'm talking about going on a long hike and camping to break up the hike. You want to minimize the weight as much as possible, and you're not going to be, setting fire to the wilderness or going hunting for your own dinner or anything like that. So yeah, in many ways it would. And apart from anything else, have you seen the model camp knives? Every camp knife ever made is based on a Swiss Army knife. So yeah, suck it.
camping to me, no matter what sort it is, I always I have an old chef's hatchet, or not a chef's cleaver that I use for delimbing branches, not cutting branches off. And then, well, it's funny, I just brought one up. This is what I used to be a Mora man. I had Mora for everything. And this little small, oh gosh, like this little small, this is a brother knife.
Oh, very nice.
It's a really lovely little knife. Got a Scandi grind, great for doing feather sticking and all. That's all I ever do when I go out is bit of feather sticking and light a fire.
Yeah, and they're cracking. And honestly, if we could, I think, Paddy, if we could get away with carrying those knives, I would, without fear of being, the caught foul of whatever legislation we're and interpretation of
Legislation
foul of. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It says so long as you have a good reason for it. The trouble is that sometimes the definition of the good reason is the hardest thing to prove.
Right.
You know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do you know the only one I would add a sack that I think would be good for camping is that one that I got off Dan.
Is that the
It's the what? It's the
Outrider.
Outrider. I think this is fantastic because you have that locking blade. If you want to do feather sticking, it's better with a locking blade. So I would, and you've got the can opener, you got a saw, but it'd be bigger than just a normal sack saw.
Yeah,
I think that's the one I would.
Yeah, that's the other one I was talking about. Paddy was the Forester. Just doesn't have the Forester. The only thing it doesn't have is the screwdriver in it, so it's a layer less.
Right.
But the 111 mils. Actually, I like the ergonomics of the handle as well. It sits really nicely in the hand.
I can't believe how comfortable they are in the hand, because I looked at them and I thought, no, that's good. You're not going to want to do feather sticking with that even, but I think they're fantastic. Yeah. So I'm a convert to sacks, but that's definitely one I think I would throw in my camping bag.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, by the way, Dan, just to bring you up to speed there, by the way, you are his favorite because I gave him that knife. You didn't.
Oh, oh big.
You do provide a perfect segue into from what you were saying about big knives, because my last sort of essential function that I thought I'd consider is, of course, I mean, we always have to consider the almost, I mean, it's the inevitability of the zombie apocalypse. I mean, we have to admit that that is what's going to happen. So, I mean, just to lend the lie to that I'm all about small knives, I don't think so, guys. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite and probably one of my oldest possessions. And this is what I will be packing come the zombie apocalypse, folks. And honestly, this'll do the job. This is the Kabar 1249. Sorry, K-Bar 1249. And it is an absolute beast. It is fantastic. And I got I got this about 20 odd years ago from America before customs had closed down and everything. It was going to, one, it's going to stop it coming across, and two, it was going to charge you an arm and a leg that would almost have doubled the price of the knife. And I was absolutely stunned that it arrived. I think I've hidden it for the last 20 years from my wife. She doesn't know I have it. But but this is an absolute cracking knife. And come the zombie apocalypse, I want to be holding this. Apart from anything else, and this is one of the reasons I got it, was it is a fantastic chopper. It is just a great machete substitute, and it's a lot more versatile because it's almost half an axe and half a machete, and it's a lovely, lovely piece. But I think the real reason I got it is because I've always loved the cookery. I have always loved the cookery. I remember as a child reading a book, a young lad, about 14 or 15, reading a book called Iogur Kali, and it was a story of the Gurkhas in the Second World War, and boys own stuff, and I've never forgotten it. So I would love, honestly, to have a real cookery, but this'll do. This'll do. It's in 1095 steel. It's almost indestructible, and
It's a really good cookery.
that is my zombie apocalypse knife, folks. Stephen, surely you've got a zombie. You've thought about it, obviously.
Well, let me just say you've redeemed yourself with that cookery. Yes, I have. I'm sure Dan. I'm sure Dan has too. I have one that I keep in a wee tiny box. Oh, you can't see it.
It's too big.
Oh my God.
This is
Oh,
my
mother of
little
mercy. Oh, man.
This is like a gladiator's sword,
Is that the Rough Rider?
and yeah. I mean, I got it for about 36 quid. It's just fantastic.
Man.
But I mean, it's not as the cookery is a knife you can use to take down a small tree. Yeah, it would take you a week with this. Do you know what I mean?
Dan, do you have any big ones yourself, or do you? I mean, or
No, because I've got children, and to be honest with you, Steph doesn't like big knives in the house. No, I respect that. I genuinely respect that, and I'm not. No, they're all either UK legal carries or pocket knives or that sort of thing. Really, just small, every EDC knives. I don't have anything. Like, I mean, I like all the stuff, don't get me wrong. I did have in my workshop at one point a British Army machete, the green ones, and it was beautifully made. It was all had the crow's foot on it, and I give it to a friend of mine. That was on. I put a really nice edge on that and everything, and that was beautiful. I love that, but I didn't really see any apart from the zombie apocalypse. That'd have been great because that'd have been straight to. I'd have loved to run up with you with the Gurkha knife, what we call him, Stephen, with his sword, and I could have been with the British Army machete. I could have been there for the English lads.
back to back, Dan. Back to back.
But yeah, absolutely. But no, unfortunately, guys, no, nothing big in this house. Certainly knife-wise. Well, actually, any size, but just no. The answer is no.
You're probably wise, my man. You're probably wise. I mean, this is all crazy when it comes down to it. But that's me done. That's my 5 knives. So we've got Midnight Manager, we've got the GC Bullnose, we've got the G-Clip Compact, the Huntsman, and of course, pride of place, the cookery, the K-Bar cookery. That's me done, lads.
Yeah. So I've basically done what Jud's done. I've gone for like a handful of knives that I want to go through. I'm Dan the Sack Man, so I'm going to stay true to that. But I'm going to put a bit of a twist to it. So today I want to do a few sack alternatives. And I want to start with my favourite one, which is it is actually a Spartan to look at. And it's made in Germany, Solingen. And it has on it here a 5-turn corkscrew. So that's like the old sort of pre-1970 ones with the 5-turn. It also has a little reamer all on it, but it's quite. There's no edge. There's no blade to it. It's just nice and pointy, very strong. Now I was curious about this because the corkscrew had a little bit of play in it. So what I've done is I popped the scales off, and they're a solid scale. They're Celidor solid scale, and underneath is brass liners, and it's very, very, very well made. So obviously Victorinox use like some sort of aluminium, so you get a slight oxidization on that, which is perfectly normal for aluminium to happen, which prevents further damage to it as such. But I am a big fan of brass and the way brass patinas, and it's a beautiful underneath it. It's very well made, and there's a couple of pins here. And the problem was they just haven't pinned them over when it was done. So you had a bit of play. So I fixed that. But because the scales are solid, even warming up, they always crack a bit. So I've just put a little glue on, placed them in, held them for about 20 seconds, and perfect. Then I buffed them up a bit. As you can see, it's got a nice little shine to it. So, but that's the standard Celidor. So you get, on this one, you get a tin opener. And it's sort of almost a design of its own. They haven't completely nicked it off because it's got sort of flat top. So they certainly haven't nicked it off of
Wenger.
Victorinox or Wenger as such. So it is kind of on its own there. It's not a copy. I would think it's nice, probably 80s by the way it's designed. Then you've got a little cap lifter and quite a nice screwdriver. And I say there's no play in that. And the springs are lovely and tight. It's got a great snap to it.
It's got brilliant snap, yeah.
It really, what I use this. This is my daily user. So that clips there. Then you've got, what I like about this is you've got the main blade. Oh, my fingers are a bit broken, as you can see. So you have to lift this one up first, or I do, because I can't be nailing it. And then you lift the main blade up, and it's a lovely spear. And it's got some writing. Really, and it's got some writing on, and it's PUTSCH. And I did Google that, and that's a really interesting story, but I can't remember it. And my favourite bit, last but not least, what a beautiful clip.
Oh, yeah.
That Paddy was saying earlier, it gives you, when you're whittling, gives you that lovely, lovely edge just get there. It's all stamped inox Solingen. There we are. You don't know if you can see that or not, but that's on the pen blade, the quill blade, whatever you want to call it, as well as the, you see, I just can't get the blade out without taking that out. It's got inox Solingen Germany on the main blade there as well. Yeah, anyway, so this is, I really like this. This is something I fell in love with the second I picked it. I brought a big box of knives. My hand went straight to it, and I thought, oh, this is very well built. But it is a lovely knife. You've obviously got some sort of stainless steel tools with brass liners. I'll confirm now the pins are brass pins in there as well when you take it off. It's all built lovely. I have popped a bottle of wine with it. I've used it and really enjoyed it. So that's my first one goes to Germany for the sack sort of camping style knife. This one. Next, I have got a. So next up, guys, I've actually got what looks like red jelly with some bloke know his name on the back of it, a Victorinox, but it's not. This is, in fact, lovely snap. I don't know if you can see that.
No, Dan. What does it say?
Can you see it now?
Oh, is that Sheffield?
That, sir, is a Rogers. And it's got the star and the cross. Stainless inoxidable. But it's almost identical, and it fits that scales fit it. So if anyone out there in the audience knows about this, please do come and tell us. So what you've got on there is you've got the main pen blade, and I'll put that up again so you can see that. Okay, then it's got the pen or quill blade, whatever you want to call it, and they almost look identical to sack ones. Okay, then you've got on the next bit scissors. So it's a 2-layer with pen blade made back and scissors. That's it.
A 2-layer
And
with scissors?
Yeah, but the scissors aren't are very similar, but they're slightly different. They're not quite sack scissors. So
Yeah.
Well, Sheffield, the likes of Rogers would have made scissors in their factory anyway.
well, this is true. They are very good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not quite Swiss ones. Then on the back, you've got the 4-lever, 4-turn corkscrew, and that obviously because it's scissors, there's no awl on the back or whatever on the back, and a key ring there. So yeah, but the sack scales fit perfectly, like not half a mil out. They are literally a perfect fit. So
That's amazing.
if anyone wants to tell me what that was about, or did they buy some bits from Victorinox or do a deal, then please do, because there's nothing on Sack Wiki what I can find. So that's a bit of an oddball. Again, this I don't particularly. I mean, it's like you say, I'm not a massive fan because the scissors are they're not as good as the Sack one, and the knife, and it's just something I don't want to use because of what it is. I don't know where the original scales are, but that is what it is. So coming up third for me is another Sack lookalike, and this is a Hapo, Hapo, Austria.
Wow.
And this is quite cool. I should think that's had a bit of sharpening because it's lost its sort of belly, really. Unless, I mean, it's definitely drop point now. But but then you can't. It's hard to see. I don't know. Perhaps that is the original shape, but there doesn't seem to be any belly to it. It seems to be like almost like a sheep or a lamb it would be.
But
and then
unless it was somebody who was using the tip and the belly
and
just sharpened it out.
Yeah, it could have been sort of flat sharpened it or whatever. Yeah. So you got the main blade with that. Then you've got the pen blade. The pen blade's very thin as well, and it just says stainless on it.
It looks a bigger pen blade than you would get on a Swiss.
Only, do you know what? I haven't got it, but only very slightly. This is quite thin. It does move quite a bit, but again, no real snap. It probably
does the job.
Does the job. Little cap lifter. Look at that.
What the heck?
I know, and I don't.
That's an anorexic. That's an anorexic crab claw.
Right, a crab claw indeed, but it doesn't look like it's been modified or changed. It's just like, sometimes people grind them to make their own shape and do bits for a specific job. It is just a very strange, like you said, crab claw indeed. And on the back, you've got a little bottle over that, ain't got much cop. And then it sort of lets itself down here. When it comes to the back tools, they start turning a bit Chinese, to be honest with you. But the main blade's all right. It's got that written on it. And a little badge.
Dan, that was exactly it. I mean, when you got to the back tools there, that was what I was starting to think as well. Like, isn't it the Royale or the Royal? Are the Chinese sort of sackalikes or lookalikes or clones or whatever the hell they are? They always seem to let you down on the back tools. They seem to do all right with the slicey.
The main.
Yeah,
but
it starts to. Yeah, but it starts to fall apart when it gets to the back. Yeah.
So I'm going to go on to number 4. And number 4, I don't know, you two must have read my mind, is...
Oh, there you go. Oh, very
a
nice.
M grip. And it is an absolute beaut. I've never been a massive 111 fan.
And it's serrated, yeah.
Yeah, so 70% serration or whatever. And it's
that would be on the grinder.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, and I used this the other day because we'd run out with doing some vegetable curry, and the knives were all dirty, and I said, "Oh, hang about, let me get some cutting some onions," and although it's quite fat for that job, it just so sharp with the serration, you just push through, and it's just absolutely what a fantastic blade this is. The one-handed opening action is just like. What is this brand new? 40, 45 quid?
40, 45 quid, yeah.
Go and buy another knife at 45 quid at this quality, because you're not going to find it. Absolutely.
Is that a locker knife?
It's a liner lock, so it's so much stronger.
Liner lock,
I think I've got an idea why they got rid of the old one, because it used to jam. When you actually open them up, the side locks, they're so weak. You'll never break a liner lock. It's not going to happen. It's not, not using it. Okay, I know you get these people YouTube and they tie bricks to it and all that rubbish, but let's be realistic. But in real life, is it? Just using this. And if you went in, you see, the reason I like this is because I'm not saying this is good whittling knife, but you could do a little bit of that, cut some veg. It's such a versatile blade. It's not going to be specialised at anything, but you could cut rope with this all day. In the serrations, no problem. You've got a little bit of normal blade there if you just need to do a bit of fine cutting. It's such a lovely, volatile blade. And then you get a lovely, what we're saying, large wood saw, and it's razor sharp, lovely back for if you want to really give the ferrule stick some good grinding. This is a shame this isn't a UK legal carry, because if they just said to you, you could have up to 4-inch locking, this would be the knife, because it's such a good. I mean, you've got the little tin opener on there, little 2D Phillips on there. Everyone knows what's on this, but the screwdriver, the half lock, you can use this as a pry bar. There's so much strength in this line. And then when you go to full, it locks as well. So you can use this not just as a screwdriver or cap lifter or wire stripper. You can really get in and it pops something up, and you've not got to worry if you've got to wedge something in. I'm not saying abuse it, but you haven't got to worry about it folding down onto your thing. Admittedly, I would much rather prefer a screwdriver, but you could get you can get the little tinder sticks that go in there, or you know what I mean, the little sticks go in there with your set light too. Yeah. And then you've got that as well on the back. This is lovely and strong, which is good. It's just an overall, you don't get the toothpick and tweezers on the M-Grip series, but overall it is just such a and everyone knows I'm not a massive 111 fan, but this one for me this is like the soldier knife. Yeah, it's all there. The one hand opening is good. The grip is just, you can really work the knife, work the tools, and you've not got to think, oh, I don't want to. There's no chance of that coming back on you. Just no chance.
You'll like this one. Same model, but in wood.
Yeah, I see it. Beautiful.
But and again, just to bring out the ring, the changes. This isn't the one-handed opening version. It's just the standard spear. But
it doesn't matter though, because this isn't used for self-defense. You don't need to give it the whole Hong Kong Fooey stuff, do you?
Yeah.
It's just everyday, normal, for normal people.
Yeah, but it's that combination of tools that makes it such a good camp knife, I think. And as he was saying earlier, that extra little half-inch on the saw makes all the difference. It goes through wood like you would not believe. It goes.
Oh, for sure. I've used that. So sharp. Give it a tap. Easy to clean out. Rinse it. I mean, I only rinsed that under the tap the other day. Cut some onions, and it's clean again. A little bit of oil now and then, and like you said, away you go. No issues. And last but not least, guys, another little sack look-alike. But this is my favourite because you've got made in Italy, I think, this one. So you get obviously cap lifter, screwdriver. I mean, that's not a 2D. That is a straight off flathead screwdriver on that one. Then you get a lovely sort of hook on that as well on the bottom open. That's more Wenger style, isn't it? Really, lovely sort of in there. Then you get the main blade on. Do you know what? I abuse this as well. Really, I don't know what steel it is. I've no idea. But I've only ever stropped this, and I've been cutting through boxes and tape and boxes for ages and ages and ages, and it's still shaving sharp. Couple of strops, and it's still. I don't know, for whatever reason, this has this particular steel, or whether it's the temper, however, seems to have a slight edge over the Victorinox and Wenger blades. And I didn't expect it. For a 30 quid knife, I did not expect that. I don't know if it's zebra wood, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. No, it's not that. It's just whatever wood this is.
It's pretty.
It is beautiful, and you get this lovely blade, and it's got slight more drop than spear. Where the sacks are more spear, this is more of a drop, but a good drop. But it's razor sharp. I've never sharpened it. Just run it on the swap. That's it. Or put it wood, or probably palm of my hand, something like that. Whatever. just to sort of bring the edges together again. Back tools, you get a 4-turn corkscrew, and then you've got all with a little sewing eye.
Ooh, right.
It's quite a shot. I mean, it's got a little bit of play, but whatever. It's only a pit. It ain't going to break. It's only just where the pins probably haven't been pushed in enough. But because it's wood and it's got big ones, I've not taken it apart. I thought I enjoy it. And last but not least, this is what makes it my dream little Nile. There she is. If you're a little hungry in the van or in the car, you can pop it out and just have fish and chips. I mean, you just can't wait.
Excellent.
It warms my heart just to know that I can eat when I want, because I like eating. So this is my finishing one. Mercury. Lovely wooden handles. So everyone says it's down the sack, man, and I haven't brought out any sacks apart from a Forester, which I knew you lot wouldn't suspect. So these are my 4. So I'll start again. So we've got my favourite, the German. Call it a Spartan if you want.
My favourite.
Okay, it's going over to Paddy. So but it's beautiful for whittling or whatever. It's a lovely, lovely knife. Yeah. Okay. Then I think we were on to the Austria knife, which is, I mean, it's not bad quality. It's probably a 6-7 out of 10. So, it's okay. It would have been price depending, I suppose. I've no idea. You can tell the colour, the pigment ain't so good. The plastic ain't so good. But again, there's some nice alternatives out there. And there are plenty. Because I think Charade done a range of sacks, if I'm right. I can't remember the red. And they did a whole range. And there's so many more I'm going to look into and try and get and show. Then we've got the Rogers, which I thought was a beautiful piece. Very well made. Which is...
Can I give you a suggestion for that Rogers?
Yeah.
Do you know what I would do? I would ask Ashley if he would put bone scales on that for you.
Do you know what? I think you've hit the nail on the bloody head there. I spoke to him the other day, actually.
A nice set of bone scales would look beautiful.
Yeah. And it would be a real camp knife then, as opposed to just a sack-alike. So, yeah, that would be something special.
Yeah, I will ask him to put me some bone scales on this, because it's sort of Sheffield then, and it gets rid of the Victorinox stuff as well. And I think it's going to be a nice one. So this is the choice. That was my third choice. So my fourth choice was, of course, the Forester. Beautiful. I think everyone should have one. I think it's a crime that we're not allowed to carry it. And then my fifth choice. This was a holiday purchase. What we got in Cornwall. Absolutely love the Mercury. Again, thumbs up. So what my basic message is today for everyone, there is lots of different alternatives. Please explore stuff. Please have fun. Please add to your collection. I know we call me down the sack man, but there's plenty of stuff I do like that isn't sacks, but are like multi-tool, sort of like camping knives. So yeah, that's my word of the day. Just enjoy, share the love, share the knives about, and have fun. Have fun.
Brilliant.
And now over to the biggest, the hairiest, the most beautiful man in Northern Ireland. It's Paddy. Over to you, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
I have got the really boring one of reading you information out about knives through the centuries, which is not very exciting. But in the one hand, it's incredibly exciting. I learned so much when I was doing the research for this. This one came from a young man called Tom, who has a YouTube channel, Knife Delights. Please go over and check him out. Really is a nice fella. Usually more inexpensive knives, but a lot of older knives which have so much history. So he had asked me, could I give a brief outline of the history of Sheffield knife makers? No. I can't give you a brief. But I have tried to do as good as I can. I've got this down to about just under 15 minutes, so I'll try and even cut more out. But it was interesting, and what I want to tell people is, this is the sort of thing you can do at home yourself. It's just Google is an amazing talent. For people like me at my age, Google is just mind-blowing. You can type anything into it and then start researching. So I just typed in Sheffield steel, and there's a myriad of places to go to find out about it. So what I'm going to do is just sort of break down about more Sheffield cutlers about penknife makers. That's what we're interested in. It was 1297 is the first written proof that there was a cutler in Sheffield. And it's just, cutlery actually means that which cuts. That's what cutlery
That's
means.
brilliant.
So again, so amazing. But this is going back to it was when they started the Hearth Tax records. It was the first time they'd done any records in England, and this is when this came up because one of the people on it was called Robertus le Cutler, which was just Robert the Cutler. That's what he was called, Robert the Cutler.
Bob the Cutler. He was called Bob the Cutler.
Bob the Cutler.
Bob the Cutler.
Bob the Sack Man.
Excellent.
Bob the bloody Sack Man.
So I mean that just shows you how far it goes back to and it wasn't only Sheffield, it was all over the different parts of the country. But Sheffield was mentioned specifically by that cutler in 1297. So we've got a wee bit of a history of knife makers.
Jeepers.
I mean, the cutting tool goes back to caveman, but a cutler is going back as far as we know in Sheffield to 1297. And sort of the next sort of main mention of it in the history books takes us up to the 14th century to 1340, when Geoffrey Chaucer, and he wrote down there was a Sheffield twittle burr in his hose, which means he had a wee knife in his pocket and it was whittler. That's exactly what he had, a whittling knife in his pocket. So that when you find little details like this, it's fantastic. So you can actually delve in deeper, I'm sure, and find out a little bit more. So that takes us up to the 14th century. We're just flying through time and everything here. The 14th and 15th centuries, Sheffield and the surrounding areas of Hallamshire, there was areas like Thaxton in Essex, Ashbourne in Derbyshire, Woodstock in Oxfordshire. These were all around that area that made pocket knives. They had cutlers. But the main place was London. Most of the knives were still being made in London. And they were controlled by the Worshipful Company of Cutlers. And what these boys did, it was a guild sort of thing. And they dictated who was the apprentices, the marks. All cutlers had to have a mark to say they were cutlers. That's how they practiced their trade. But going back to the Sheffield side of it, the Earl of Shrewsbury was in charge of the cutlers in that area of cutlers, Sheffield, Ashbourne, the ones that went through there. And he regulated, they done the registering through him, the standards. They set apprenticeships and working practices for the cutlers in that area. Now, this is before mass production. This is people in a wee shed in their homes making knives for a living. You know, some of them was just in their back room, and they would have had an apprentice in teaching them how to do bits and pieces. So again, that's so interesting. There's another place you can go and delve into. So in Sheffield, here's the really interesting point that I had no idea about. Before 1650, the steel that they used for making knives came from Sweden. That just blew my mind. Absolutely. They got their steel from Sweden because they were able to make better steel than obviously what we did. But again, that's something I'm going to go back and delve into myself to just understand why Sweden were so far ahead. I mean, I would have thought I'm going back to the old sort of knights in the realm, and the swords were obviously made with Swedish steel.
Wonder if they had a Scandi grind on them, Paddy.
But I mean, this to me was just an absolute. So it wasn't until after 1650 when they discovered the blister steel, and that's, you know, when it was heat treated in charcoal, it was heated in a cement furnace for about a week. Then it was that just let the carbons get into the steel with the charcoal, and obviously the cement furnace. So once forge welded, and by forge welding is you getting it and bashing it and moving, heating it, bashing it. What that done, it spread the carbides throughout the steel evenly. You hear us talk about Swedish steel, fine carbides. Well, this was a rougher version of that. This was getting the carbides so they weren't on chunks. When you hit a bit of metal or something, you didn't chip a big chunk of your blade. So that's all. When they were hitting it in the forge and hammering it, it spread the carbides out throughout the steel. So again, I just learned so much about it. So the Little Masters, which is what Ashley Harrison is, this is a boy we talk about. We've had him on the channel. There's quite a few still remaining who are Little Masters. And what they normally are people who work for a larger company, but then make knives, pocket knives, outside of the company. So they could be, there's still a few big cutlers left in Sheffield that make all sorts of cutlery. And I mean, even there's such a wide range. When you say cutlery, there's a huge range of what cutlery can be, as far as Sheffield and other makers can be. But I'm trying to stick to pen knives and let the other side go its own way, because it's another just field of. So the introduction of steam-powered machinery changed the cutlery world like it did anything. It changed everything. So the big companies who were making cutlery for houses, for tables, for tablewares, that was being done at a production level. So the Little Masters were the penknife makers to the general public, if you like, and very important. And they could have a wee room in the back of a house, and there might be the cutler himself, two other tradesmen, and an apprentice in that wee room. And they all would have worked different parts. Like the cutler probably would have done the blade, the grinding. You'd had somebody doing the handles, somebody doing the peening, and the apprentice doing whatever he was told. And that's how you learned your trade. And, it was a long trade. And then I think it was about 5 years or something that a Little Master had to go through until he made his own knife to the standard that the cutler wanted. Mm-hmm. So again, and the Little Masters, that's from 1780 going on up to today, right up to today. They still are called that name.
And if you think about it, and if you think back to the conversation we had with Ashley, when he was talking about his apprentice, what he was describing, Paddy, was pretty much exactly the same program you're talking about. So in 300 years, hasn't changed that much.
No.
Really amazing.
I mean, that sort of brings us up to Little Meisters now, and they're still going. And a lot of the ones that I've got from, like Stephen Conger, Ashley, there's a load, there's too many to mention, or not too many, but we still have enough that are good enough that are trying to pass on the trade and keep that tradition going, which I think is fantastic. I mean, a lot of Little Meisters will make blades. They're not going to use M390. They're not going to use these fancy, micarta scales that are all, dark matter. They just make a knife with a natural handle on it, usually wood or bone. And they make it with steel that's cheap. It's easy to make. It's easy to sharpen when it goes blunts. And it's just for working people. And that's what it was made for in the 1700s. Once they started making their own steel, the carbon steel, well, that was it. They just used it. And they haven't changed much. And why should they? There's enough M390 knives out there. You don't need another person doing it. I like the fact that the Sheffield Little Meisters, I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. Is it Meisters?
Master?
Master?
Master. I think it was Master. I think it was Master. Yeah.
But they just made it with basic carbon steel. Well, they used stainless steel as well. Sheffield was obviously famous for stainless steel at the turn of coming into the early 1900s. Then they invented stainless steel, so they used that as well. They use it more now. I think it's called N200 or something. It's called. It's a Sheffield steel that they still use today in their knives, their steels. So if we go back to the 19th century and just talk about the 19th century, that's when Sheffield was at its peak, and most of their knives were being made for the American market. In fact, if we go back, if we go back to the 1800s, even in 1812, there was 6,000 people making knives in Sheffield, and the population was 18,000.
So a third of the population.
A third of the population were making knives. that's just, it was a third of the population of Sheffield were becoming knife makers, and Sheffield was becoming the main one. And in the Sheffield city, all the knife makers were virtually within a mile. There was a circle of a mile, and all these big companies were all within that mile. And the reason they were is because they used each other's different talents and, you know, for making stuff and sharing ideas so that they could make better knives, so they could get them done faster, because they were shipping boatloads out to America, mostly the Bowie knife.
Really?
It was the most popular knife made in Sheffield that was sent to America, the Bowie knife. And what they did, they specialized in ones that had decoration on the handles, you know, patriotic things on the handle, and also decoration on the blades. They would have engraved the blades for them with patriotic symbols and sayings like. So that I found really, well, I knew they sent to America, but this is a little bit of a joke. So if you're American, please take it as a little bit of a joke. But we lost the war with you, and I'm still bitter. Once America sort of went into once they took to making knives and using modern machinery, they learned very quickly how to mass produce knives. So they were the Chinese of the 18th and 19th century. They mass produced knives and blew our Sheffield steel. They didn't order knives from us anymore. They put the tariffs up that we couldn't afford to send them to America. In the 19th century, America just shit on us. And they made their own then and mass produced, and they became the biggest knife makers in the world. I think it was Camillus or something. So, I mean, that's another little interesting fact. And I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but you know, that really what it was America did wreck our steels for whatever reason. Bit of fun.
It's just economics, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the joy that I found in this, that I found out so many just tiny little bits that just amused me, that made me interested. I want to go and do some more. Tom, I hope that is, look, it was so brief, but there's so much history in knife making. I hope that's just give you a little bit of interest, that you can get yourself into it and find out the things that I have and in a wee bit more detail. So thank you very much, lads. I hope that wasn't too long. And
that was perfect.
Thank you very much for listening. I really enjoyed both yours. It was great just to have a chat about something. And some of the things that would interest our viewers, hopefully. If you're a viewer and you enjoyed it, please go down into the comments. Let us know what you think of it. Even if it's just, I enjoyed that. It gives us a bit of a boost, gives us incentive. We will do probably one of these every 2 months where we'll pick 2 or 3 questions. If you ask the questions, there's a good chance we'll answer them. You know, even if it's just at the end of a podcast, or we'll do a complete one like tonight where we'll pick 3 big ones and do that. So it's up to you folks. We would love to hear them. And thank you so much. We're having a great response from you. And I know all 3 of us are so happy how things are going. So thank you. Please subscribe, like, and here's a little important thing. Share, because podcasts are for sharing. Share it to your friends, even if they're not knife people, and ask them to share it to their friends. We get knife people in by sharing what we've got. So, to Dan the Sackman and Judd, thank you so much. See you at the next one.